What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my bets placed for this weekend's UFC card, which is UFC Vegas 73. We've got the grappler Mackenzie Dern taking on the longtime UFC veteran and striker Angela Hill at the women's 115 division for potentially 5 rounds of action at the UFC Apex this Saturday. And then we've got a break week from the UFC next week. So let's try to make it count. I have a lot of action on this card, probably more than I should, and I'll point out the spots that I'm more confident in and the spots that I'm less confident in, but I do have 8 money lines out of these 12 fights, so I'm not overly invested more than a normal week. A lot of these money line shots are very small, just trying to win a unit in return for the small investment, and just hope that we come out the majority of these picks correct and make some profit. So that's where I'm at with this. I do have one prop on this card, and it probably will stay that way, and it's in the main event. But at the end of all of the moneyline bets that I've placed, explaining those briefly, I'll go over some of the props that I do like if I were to play some of those. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for reaching 1,000 subs and beyond. You guys are awesome. It's great to have over 1,000 of you in this awesome community that you guys have helped build over the past year or so. So thank you so much for that. Let's keep it going forward. Also, I'm a partner of Bet Online, which you can check out in the description. There's a welcome bonus of 50% for new customers. It's a sportsbook that I use. They always have great mixed martial arts betting lines, especially the money lines, but they also release their props, one of the first books to do that in the week. So check out Bet Online. Use my link through the description below, and that'll help the channel out, as well as subscribing and keeping this thing moving forward. So again, I have a lot of money lines in this card, so I'm going to explain them briefly and keep this video concise as usual. But for all the details and how I think this will play out, check out the full card breakdown earlier in the week, or the live stream I did last night with the On The Line podcast guys, Tommy and Anthony, awesome fellows over there. So we had a very fun time shooting the shit about these fights last night. So without further ado, we can move into the first bet of the night, and it's the very first fight of the night, 170-pound bout between Themba Garimbo and Takashi Sato. I've got Garimbo in this one on the money line. It's a pick-em price tag right now, 50-50 on the books. I paid 1.07 units to win one at minus 107 on Garimbo, who I think is going to be just far better on the mat in this fight. No surprise there. That's where he's the most comfortable. He's got a lot of subs on his record. He's 0-1 in the UFC so far, but his first match with AJ Fletcher, he was able to take him down, get him in some trouble in round 1. Takashi Sato, a super low output striker, just sniping for that left hand straight, which is powerful. He could get the fight done that way, but Sato's a little bit smaller. He's on a 3-fight losing streak and always struggles on the mat, gives up his back, and probably will get submitted in this spot. But Garimbo by sub, you're probably not going to get big odds on that one, just because it's kind of the obvious path with 6 submissions from Garimbo and Sato getting subbed 3 times in the UFC. So I'm taking Garimbo here. I think he will get those takedowns. And even if he just wants to strike with Sato at range, as long as he doesn't get himself knocked out, Sato is never really landing more than 10, 20, maybe 30 significant strikes at some point. So it's always very low output. I think Garimbo's got him beat in this matchup. So that's the first money line. The second money line I have, we're talking about Nick Fiore to defeat Chase Hooper. Another very even matchup as far as the money lines are concerned. We've got 2 grapplers this time. Chase Hooper, who we've seen in the UFC, going 3-3 so far. So a lot of experience for Hooper, the BJJ black belt who came into the UFC at like 20 years old and has had mixed success, but he's now moving up a weight class to 155. So that's a big change for him in this matchup. He is a 6'1" fighter, so still big for the weight class. Nick Fiore, a couple inches shorter, making his second walk to the cage. And Fiore showed how tough he was against Mateusz Rebecki, lasting all the way to the bell on super short notice. And Fiore was like a plus 600 underdog or something crazy in that matchup. So Fiore is also a high-level black belt, a BJJ coach over at the New England Cartel with some notable featherweight contenders in that division. So I think Fiore is going to be one of the first tests for Chase Hooper that can actually last on the mat with him comfortably and not freak out every time Chase Hooper tries to go for a leg lock or something like that. So Fiore's got better offensive takedowns, better defensive takedowns, and Chase Hooper can't defend or shoot a takedown to save his life. So I think Fiore can last on the mat, probably be the more technical striker on the feet as well. So when the money line was the underdog price for Fiore, that was one of the first bets I made. Minus 105. I put just 1.05 units to win one on Nick Fiore. So right now he's moved to like a minus 130. If it goes anything beyond that, I'm probably not as interested in this fight, but I do like, the overs in this matchup probably would, that probably would be a good way to go, just because neither guy is probably the most dangerous on the feet, and both guys can probably cancel each other's jiu-jitsu out on the mat. So give me Nick Fiore on that money line. Like I said, minus 105 to win 1 unit. Moving right along the prelims, I've got Rodrigo Nacimento to defeat Ilir Latifi. And this is a spot where I'm not the most excited to bet Rodrigo Nacimento, not the most excited to bet him as a favorite, but I do have 1.8 units to win 1 at minus 180. So this is one of the riskier, more aggressive bets I've made. But when you look across the octagon at who he's facing, it's Ilir Latifi, who, kind of like we talked about with Takashi Sato, very low output. I mean, Latifi had a legendary bout with Derek Lewis where he landed 5 significant strikes in that match, and Derek Lewis won a decision against him. So that is not too far in the past, and now Ilir Latifi is 40 years old. He basically has to get the fight to the mat where he's in top position, and he can just ride out control time. No ground and pound, no submission attempts from Latifi. He just wants that ground control time. Rodrigo Nacimento is also a grappler, but really good BJJ for a heavyweight. He's going to have a big height and reach advantage. Nacimento is the more natural heavyweight. Latifi is a guy who's kind of blown himself up in his old age from being a light heavyweight earlier in his career. So Latifi had just kind of retired. He's had some issues going on with the commission. So at 40 years old, I just think that Nacimento can, again, stay on the feet with him, outpoint him at range if he wants to get the takedown on Latifi. Latifi's never been taken down before, but not many people have pressed the issue on him. So if this goes into round 2, round 3, I think Nacimento's cardio is going to be a lot better. He's 10 years younger, the bigger man naturally, and he's going to put out more output and try to win the fight. So give me Nacimento, either inside the distance or by decision. Don't really know which is going to happen here. This could be very sloppy, but like I said, I do have that money line at minus 180 on Nacimento to win 1 unit. So that's one that I'm not as excited about, if I'm being honest with you. But I do like the next one, which is Gilbert Urbina to defeat Orion Koski. Welterweight matchup here. Urbina has been away for a couple of years now since being the runner-up on The Ultimate Fighter, losing to Brian Battle after having success in round 1. And that was on The Ultimate Fighter season of 2021, where Urbina was up a weight class for the show. He's normally a 170-pound fighter, big for the weight class at 6'3", and he does have a wrestling background and pretty aggressive striking as well. He pushes the issue, gets into his opponent's face, and he's a very good grappler on the mat. Gets the hooks in and threatens submissions. Urbina has had a couple of years off, but he's still only 27 years old and can make some improvements rapidly. Across the cage from him is Orion Koski, who we've seen a couple of times. He got knocked out against Phil Rowe in round 2, and he also was unable to defeat Mike Mathitha, a.k.a. Blood Diamond, who is a professional kickboxer and a failed UFC experiment, one of Adesanya's buddies, who everybody thought Koski would run through him on the mat, probably get a submission the way that Jeremiah Wells did, but Koski actually was losing every single time this was at striking range, was in trouble a couple of times and rocked, but he was able to clinch against the cage and maybe get a couple of takedowns to win that one. But he's very inactive with his fight schedule. He's pulling out of fights for injury. Orion Koski, just like his brother, I don't rate their cardio as being very high, so I think Urbina is going to be able to match his wrestling, win all of the striking exchanges in this matchup, and probably get the fight to the mat, and maybe get a submission. I think Urbina does have slick grappling, the better grappler as far as submission goes of the two fighters. So Urbina was the plus 125 underdog. I put 1.5 units on him as a dog. I think he's the much better man in this matchup. A little bit sketchy with that time off, but let's see where the money line is at now. We're looking at, I don't think it has changed that much. We're looking at Orion Koski minus 120, Gilbert Urbina plus 100. Okay, so the money has been coming in steadily on Gilbert Urbina. I got it at plus 125 and put 1.5 units on it. I still think with the plus number in front of Urbina's name, that's a good bet. I think he's got way more ways to win this fight. So we can move right along to the final prelim of the night, which is at lightweight, a striker's delight between Ayaser Mahashate and Vyacheslav Borschev. And this one, I'm very confident in Vyacheslav Borschev. Slava Klaus has, he made a very big impact, a very nice left hook knockout on the Contender Series, a good body shot TKO over Dakota Bush in his debut, but then he was faced with Mark Casey, who out-wrestled him and exposed him badly. Mike Davis, which was competitive on the feet, but he got taken down quite a bit. So now he's finally fighting. Slavakos gets a striker in Ayasir Mahashate, a Chinese prospect who's very young, big for the weight class at 6 foot tall, but again, I think his striking is limited compared to Borschev, who's been a professional kickboxer since he was a young man. Started kickboxing at 14. This Russian prospect has had a lot of combat sports experience, and you can tell how confident he is in his striking. The striking coach at Team Alpha Male, I'm sure they're still continuing to work on his defensive wrestling, but I don't think it's going to be tested against Mahashate. So we got two strikers going at it. As long as Borschev can stay all the way in or all the way out from those big 1-2s of Ayasir Mahashate, I think he's going to maybe even get a TKO stoppage. Mahashate does have some defensive holes in his game. He's been rocked in a couple of spots. Last against Rafa Garcia, and also in the Contender Series, he was in trouble early. So I think Borschev will be the more durable man and just have way better in-fight adjustments when it comes to timing his striking. So give me Borschev. Minus 150, I paid 2 units on him at minus 150, and I think that money line has just gone up a little bit to like minus 170 or so for Borschev. You can still get 155 out there, so not far off of what I got earlier in the week. Give me Borschev to get the W over the young Mahashate. So moving into another striker's delight, we've got Joaquin Buckley versus Andre Fiallo at welterweight. So another weight change here. Joaquin Buckley moving from 185 down to 170 for the first time in the UFC, but he's been at 170 in his past. He fought at 170 in Bellator, and he's naturally a smaller guy for the weight class at middleweight. So I don't think the weight cut will be that big of an issue for Buckley, and I am taking him to win this fight over Fiallo. I think he could even win a decision in this spot. As long as he doesn't stay at close quarters, that's where Fiallo would win this fight. But what I've got is Joaquin Buckley at minus 220, 2.2 units to win 1. And I believe that money line is still right around that price tag, unless it's gone down a bit. Minus 210 I'm seeing right now is the best price for Buckley. Fiallo at plus 180. I'd probably take Fiallo by finish and probably early. I mean, most of Fiallo's finishes are early. 12 knockouts for Fiallo out of 13, and those 12 were in round 1. After that, he kind of falls apart. His cardio's not great. He's kind of just a lumbering counter striker after round 2 and round 3, so I think Buckley is going to have the better cardio, more athletic, and just better striking selection. He's hitting those jabs, those leg kicks. You know how creative Buckley can be with his striking as well. And his wrestling is, in his back pocket. I wish he would use it more. But this might stay on the feet, and I think Buckley's just going to land the better combinations over 2 to 3 rounds. Maybe get a finish. I know this is expected not to go to decision, but I think both guys will be wary of each other's power early, and this could stretch out late. So give me Joaquin Buckley, that money line at minus 220, 2.2 units. And the final money line I have is in the co-main event at 185. I've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to defeat Edmund Shabazzian. Another spot where this is, it was a blown-up money line. It was like minus 300 for Fluffy Hernandez, who has a lot of advantages over Edmund Shabazzian, but it's come down even past what I paid. I thought I was getting a good deal on it at minus 245 is what I got on it, and I put minus 240 for Fluffy Hernandez, 2.4 units to win 1. And it's come down. It's like minus 190 on some books now. I know BetOnline has it. And I'm looking at the price right now, minus 191 for Anthony Hernandez. So I could have gotten a much better line if I waited. I got greedy and I jumped on it when it dipped down from that minus 300 initially. So probably more of where it should be right now. But man, I still see value on this line because this is the worst matchup for Edmund Shabazzian, who's a karate-based striker, very slick counter striker, and very powerful round 1 knockout artist. Most of his knockouts are in round 1. And after that, he does tend to fade. His cardio falls apart, especially when people push the grappling. Guys like Jack Hermanson, guys like Derek Brunson, guys like Nasruddin Imavov last time. So he is coming off of, he finally got a W next to his name against Dulce Lungiambula by knockout in round 2. But Dulce is another guy who slows down after round 1 just as well. So all Edmund had to do is stay safe in round 1 and then load the offense on him at the end of round 2. I think Fluffy Hernandez is aggressive enough, and he's getting better, whereas whenever Edmund faces a step up in competition, he tends to get worse and doesn't, he doesn't show up to the fight the way that he should as a young, improving fighter. Anthony Hernandez, still 29. You see fight-to-fight improvements. Cardio looks good, and I only see him losing this fight in round 1 by knockout. Otherwise, I think Hernandez is live to get a submission in rounds 2 or rounds 3, so I would check out those props on Hernandez. Like I said, minus 240 is what I paid. You can get minus 190 at this point, so that might be I see a lot of value on that line for such a good stylistic matchup for Fluffy Hernandez. And I almost forgot one of the money lines, which is Lupita Godinez to defeat Emily Dakota. I am trusting Godinez here at a 120-pound catch weight. A bit of short notice, but Godinez has some of the more aggressive strikes in this matchup. Dakota has struggled against pressure-forward fighters before, and she struggled against people who can implement a wrestling-heavy game plan, which we've seen from Godinez in the past, and in the majority of her fights, she's landing a lot of takedowns. So Dakota, being a BJJ black belt herself, probably won't be too uncomfortable being on her back in this matchup, but I don't think she will lock up anything off of her back. So both of these girls were outclassed by Angela Hill recently. Lupi Godinez seemed to want to strike with her and was hesitant to start a wrestling-heavy game plan. And Dakota just mentally shut down after being outclassed by the faster and more veteran striker in Angela Hill after round 1. So I really didn't like the way that Dakota didn't make any sort of adjustments and sort of gave up, so to speak, mid-fight. Looked mentally checked out in rounds 2 and 3. Not great. I don't want to back her here. I think Godinez can implement some things that Dakota has struggled against in the past. So just give me the more aggressive striker here to land and then hopefully mix up, getting close and get some wrestling offense in there as well. So give me Godinez 1.45 units to win 1 at that minus 145 money line. I did mention I only have one prop so far, and it's actually like a little bit of 3 props if you want to count it this way, and it is what I've alluded to on a lot of my breakdowns for Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern in the main event. Striker versus grappler, 2 women that are either going to, Angela Hill's going to get that minute-winning ability on the feet, stay safe, stuff all the takedowns from Mackenzie Dern, and win this fight with her striking. Or Mackenzie Dern will have her moments of threatening submissions, jumping on Angela's back, grabbing a limb and making her defend submissions for large portions of the fight. I think this goes to the scorecards. Angela Hill stays safe from the submission threat of Dern, and the judges are going to look at the striking metrics of Hill, the damage she did, or the control time for Mackenzie Dern. And I like the fight goes to split, which is currently sitting at plus 500. I put a quarter unit on that, and I put 0.1 units for either woman to win by split decision. Mackenzie Dern at plus 900 to win by split. I put 0.1 units on that. Angela Hill to win by split is plus 800. So, again, this is something I felt a lot more comfortable with when this was scheduled for a 3-round bout, because there would be less time in the matchup and more of like a murky result from that one, right? It's kind of harder to split that. Over 5 rounds, I think, in my opinion, I think Angela Hill can actually pull away with a comfortable decision, but I still think the judges tend not to like her. She is 50-50 in decision results, and many of them have been split decisions, which she often loses. So I'm not comfortable, even though I'm on Angela Hill. I think her money line has some value on it. All of her experience, and Mackenzie Dern has failed to take out these strikers in 5-round main events. She's failed against Marina Rodriguez, failed against Yan Jiaonan, and now she's taken on an even more experienced fighter in Angela Hill. I don't think she gets it done, but the way that Angela Hill gets screwed on these decisions, I'm not willing to pay her money line, but I will pay this plus 500 for it to end in split. A likely result for these 2 women. So those are all of my bets I'm going to have on this card, but going over some props that I do like. I like the over 1.5 in the Nick Fiore Chase Hooper fight. Like I said in the beginning, that's minus 175, and I like the fact that both of their jiu-jitsu games should cancel each other out, and I think at striking range, neither is all that dangerous. So just for that to go over 1.5 for a men's lightweight fight, minus 175, not a bad spot there. If you're wanting to play the massive favorite of Natalia Silva at minus 1,000 over Leonardo, you want to fade Leonardo, instead of parlaying up Natalia Silva, I would probably lean towards the under 2.5 for Silva Leonardo. That's at minus 135, which is probably right around with the prices for Natalia Silva to win inside the distance. So why not cover both sides, cover her getting injured, cover a banana peel event from happening with this minus 1,000 women's flyweight favorite in Natalia Silva. I think she wins by stoppage at some point with the strikes, but I like the under in that spot. Other spots I like, some finish props from these fighters. Like I mentioned, Shabazzian gets most of his knockouts in round 1. I think that's his winning condition here for the most part over Fluffy Hernandez. And Edmund Shabazzian round 1 KO on DraftKings is plus 750. That is not a bad look. Same with Fiallo in this fight against Joaquin Buckley. Andre Fiallo, 12 of his knockouts, 12 of his 13 knockouts are in round 1. That's usually where he gets the best work done. And if Joaquin Buckley wants to stand too close to him and trade carelessly, he will get knocked out by Fiallo early in the spot. But that is plus 700 for Fiallo to win by round 1 knockout, which I think is pretty close to being his only winning condition here. So if you want to look at the opposite side of those, though, we're looking at Fluffy Hernandez to win. Same game parlay, round 2, round 3, or decision. So just for him to win, and after one round, the dangerous round against Shabazzian, that's plus 100. So you can transform that line to a plus money tag. If you want to add the sub onto that same game parlay, that's plus 400 for Hernandez. Same thing with Michael Johnson. I like to win inside the distance over Carlos Diego de Fajeda. Fajeda has been battling injuries. He's 38 years old at this point, and he's been out of the cage for a year and a half. So for Michael Johnson to win this fight inside the distance is plus 300. Plus 310 is the best price I see out there. I think he gets a knockout, and I think it would be early if he does finish Carlos Diego de Fajeda, but Michael Johnson's not a guy I like to trust with my money very much, so if I did, it would be with a prop like this. Playing the underdog price on Michael Johnson, he would have to get it done early for me to feel comfortable with that, because he falls apart in a lot of fights where he starts off fast and successful. He will give that money away in rounds 2 and rounds 3 if given the chance. So on the inverse of that, Carlos Diego de Fajeda by submission in rounds 2 or rounds 3, that's plus 450 on DraftKings. Kind of a spot where they expect that, so the price isn't the highest, because third-degree black belt in De Fajeda, and Michael Johnson's been subbed like 9 times, so something crazy like that. Usually falling victim later in the fight as well. So those are the spots I like. I'll probably have some of those higher-end props in a round robin. I think right now the one I have is Shabazzian in round 1, Fiallo in round 1, Michael Johnson inside the distance, and I think I have Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern winning by decision at plus 240, just in case they screw Angela Hill. So I've got that in a small money, like $25 round robin, just in case some of my my money lines fail. And I'll have that to kind of cash out as a lottery ticket fail safe. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this card. Am I crazy for playing all these money lines? Yes, I already know that, but hopefully the majority of them shake out in our favor. So let me know what your favorite spots are, your favorite money lines and props, and favorite dogs on this card. I'd love to hear it in the comments. Good luck on all of your betting action. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. And again, if you need a sports book to use online, BetOnline is a great option for mixed martial arts. You can use that affiliate link in the description for a 50% welcome bonus. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Cheers.